Go ahead.
We'll call to order this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee at 6 p.m. on June 30th. I will open the floor for B, public comment. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C, legislation referred. The first one is A, order OFY 25068, United Steelworkers Bargaining Contract Ratification. Now, we talked about this at the last meeting and then chose to continue it to this meeting. Don't know if anybody would like to start in particular.
I do have, I didn't ask the other ones because we were getting so on this, it's, does any employees move more than one step at a time? No?
Nope.
And the other thing, in the contract, it said BSU has an agreement with the town, provides courses and programs that reduce or no tuition. Do they still do that? Does anybody utilize that?
I think from my time here, the most who take most often taken advantage of that is fire employees.
Okay.
I don't recall from others.
A few other employees
Yeah.
from different departments have taken advantage of that.
That's pretty nice.
They have to apply, they have to get an approval
Yeah.
from my office. Obviously from DSU.
Yeah, and they can take it in anything they want. They just have to apply for their,
Should kind of go towards what the
what
work.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't say, so I was like, hey, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
I'm sure there could be a few that.
Well, that's a nice thing to do.
Well, yeah.
That's all I have.
Yes, I know we brought this up last time, unpopular opinion, considering what we are facing with the override and all of the expenses that we now need to look into in our operating budget. For me, it's hard to support a 2% COLA, again, with all of the money that we have to now find in the operating budget. And I understand that there's a lot of negotiation that went into this. But for me, it's not something that I'm going to want to support only because of the impact that it's going to have to the budget with everything that we're facing. You know, the schools are facing a lot of cuts. And I think that it's only fair on the town side to do everything that we can. And for us not to see what else we could do here, I think wouldn't be in good faith as we kind of consider a partnership amongst the town and the schools. So that's my concern. I know that'd be really hard to go back to the drawing board and reopen negotiations, but that's kind of where I stand on this. Okay.
I was just gonna ask, could you give us a little quick summary of what would happen if this does get rejected tonight at the council level? Just from a big picture standpoint.
Big picture standpoint, you would lose a lot of good faith that the staff has built with this union and others who are about to settle, that this work that we can't be trusted. The town is not gonna operate in good faith. Whatever, if the manager does need to bring back a supplemental appropriation, that's up to that person to recommend what that would be. It's possible that the manager could go into impact bargaining with the union, but it's gonna be with both hands tied behind his back, because what they union bargain in good faith certainly is not even on the table for them. So that's not even something you could ask them to consider. And also, don't forget, it affects the non-union employees. So all the people who've been patiently waiting, who are not aligned, are going to also read that and be very concerned and perhaps seek unionization, because they obviously can't trust management to support them. And good people will leave, to be honest with you. Good people who've got a job opportunity in another place, that they think is more a organization they can rely on, will seek to find that other job. So, I mean, we have my understanding is that the library is about to sign a settlement agreement. The AFSCME is very close to the same, which is Public Works. I mean, don't forget, this is already funded in the 26 budget. So, I mean, again, if the council wants to see the school budget as the school has certified it be achieved, the manager needs to bring a supplemental appropriation with changes. And I think that person who doesn't even arrive till tomorrow, deserves a chance to figure that out. And maybe adjustments in salaries are something, but I wouldn't, you have good union relations here overall. If you change that, it's gonna be very, very hard to get it back. The trust factor will be gone that you have now. And also, I would lastly say, the school, I will go out and say, I don't think the timing of the school teacher's contract was ideal, given the override. But still, all those employees are going to have their raises that still work there. Now, I get that that's not good for people who got notices and overall the staffing for the school, but those employees are still enjoying that, and I will applaud the school committee for at least supporting the people they're still gonna have. This sends a message that you don't support the people you still have. And I'm maybe being a little too forceful in my comments, but I just feel as my waning hours, it's important to tell you what it means and hope to change your mind.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm only one counselor of three here and 9 on the council. So I only speak and can only speak for myself, but the way I look at it is, would you rather give people a 4.5% raise COLA plus step, or 3.5%, and we could prevent the cutting of certain individuals and have everybody else take a little bit less. That's the way I see it. Maybe that's too simple brained, but that's how I see it is, keep as many people as we can, but everybody have a smaller raise to keep closer to like that 2.5% and 3%.
And that certainly is
Right.
understood.
Yeah.
But it would be better if the town started from the position of, we approve your contract, but now the manager is thinking of doing X or Y. And, can we discuss what that might look like and whether there's an appetite for the union to consider it to perhaps save some jobs? That's an easier approach to take, I think, than starting with, hi, we didn't approve it and we'd like to make whatever reductions the manager and the team recommends. I just think it's a position, and I get what you're telling me, in terms of if you want to get the manager to come up with a supplemental appropriation, there's a lot of hard decisions that go into that. And maybe this is part of it, but we don't know that yet.
Are these mostly department heads?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you're loading
I'm
up
fine
other
with
people,
With their experience and stuff, I don't think we could get someone cheaper. I've looked at different towns and stuff like that, and with their experience, I don't,
well, we
I
lost
want-
the COA director.
I wouldn't
in
want
part.
to lose, I wouldn't want to lose the department heads. I mean, we're right at, with our water and the new town manager and everything. I mean, I want to skip, and I think we can keep all employees. We need to look at there's some fundings, and we have some maturities that are being, I think I looked at the audit, and I have to look because I was saving it for the town council meeting. Oh, I think we have money in other places, so I think we'll be able to keep everybody. I don't think that's gonna be a problem, because I mean, the stabilization has 2 sections, and they're open to use other stuff. There's bonds I think it's bonds or something, that are matured this year, and that's like 7 million. I think looking at other things, because I really dug into the audit to see what the bonds are, our savings, our investments. So I mean, I don't want to lose these guys, not at this
Well, I
time.
can't say that you would. I'm just saying you
Yeah.
leave yourself vulnerable, and then, then if people are looking at the job, well, why did Susie leave? Well,
Yeah.
word gets around and like, oh, I don't know about Bridgewater.
Or some of these, I mean, you have to look at longevity too. I mean, I think that's important. That these people have stayed with us, and, you want to keep the ones who want to stay with you, not the
Oh,
ones that
agreed.
keep jumping.
Yeah.
We don't seem to really take care of the people who stay with us the longest. So I think that's important.
I mean, it's gonna be a hard job for the team to figure out how to adjust
Yeah.
in a supplemental appropriation, what should happen, in order to move forward to meet the school certified budget. And that's not lost on me.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure this is the right approach to get there. And longer term implications.
A question and then a comment for you. The question first, why retroactive COLAs too? Is that a common thing that you see in bargaining, or is that because?
Well, we didn't, the FY 25 was never in the budget. That had to be, that's why the transfer to move it from the one-time stabilization money here. That's all that is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there were no additional, the grid stayed the same as it did last year. So there was no increase in the salary tier.
The people got their step increase, but they did not get a COLA.
Right.
So we're needing to, this action is to move that money so that FY 25 can be paid. And then FY 26 is already budgeted for at 2%.
So in FY 25, they did not get the 2%.
No,
Correct.
And they
Right.
will, they're not getting that FY 25 2% on top of this 2% raise for FY 26.
There's 2% in each year.
Right, so why retroactively pay them for a year in which they
because
took?
the contract goes back to July 1st of 2024. That's when this fiscal year started.
Yeah.
Today's the last day of the fiscal year. So it's for that period. So tomorrow begins fiscal 26. So everything will be based on our 26 budget.
So they've been, negotiating over a year, waiting to get to a settlement, and then this pays them back for what they would have gotten if we'd start, they should have gotten, because their contract is still 3 years, and the date of it started, as Lori said, last July.
So this is in fact a 2-year contract, really. at this
Actually,
point.
3.
It's
Three.
It
This
goes
is
up
FY
for years.
25, 26, and 27.
But 2 years remaining now at this point.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense then. That's accounted for there. I think my comment will be, I actually agree with Johnny. I think now is a tough time to give COLA raises to anybody that's in town. But I think I would support this, to go with what Mary said, to keep the good people in town. But I think looking at this holistically as a budget and where we can allocate funds to certain departments, areas, is a way to tighten that up in a bit too. So, I don't think we should be giving out the same allocations as we gave last year. I think that's a good way for us to take back money and control it, but also at the same time, keep good people and reward the good people that are working too. So,
Well, Justin will have the opportunity, if this passes tonight, to then, Lori and Carolyn, if they need to go back into the room and discuss with unions adjustments, they at least start from a positive place.
Yeah.
That, okay, we settled this because you're valuable to us, but unfortunately, we still need to talk about whatever it is.
sure.
And try to use that goodwill to get the outcome that they and Justin will want to
So
achieve.
bring down their raises, because I mean, some of
Well, I
them
think
got
it gives them a
pretty
chance
hefty
to,
raises.
to impact bargain
Yeah.
what they may put on the table
Yeah,
and come up with a plan that comes back to the council for the chart.
Okay.
And it might include some adjustments, I can't say,
yeah.
but at least it gives them more options on the table to work through than less.
The money that would be allocated towards this, is that in the $507,000 that's in the budget? For collective bargaining?
For fiscal 26, yes.
Yeah. Okay,
So you would see some sort of transfer that moves it from that line into the lines of the salaries in the various departments.
so the $507,000, that assumes what? 2% COLA in this contract and other
All of them.
contracts?
Yeah.
Okay, because again, speaking for me personally, if this would be a lower amount, then I see the possibility of saving a lot of money as we look to cut $849,000 from the budget to fund the schools.
Right.
So if this was 1% instead of 2%, we're cutting hundreds of thousands of dollars this year. Is that the right way? That's not up for me to decide.
Right.
That's up for Justin and you and everybody else to decide. So respectfully,
Or
that's just,
recommend,
or recommend, and then for us to decide it. Yeah, I'm getting it. So that's just my position. So that's kind of how I see it, as an opportunity to make some hard decisions, but find some money in the budget. But like I
Well,
said,
I
I'm
think
just
the
one
other
person.
thing this does is that we're in the Joint Labor Management Committee, both police and fire unions have settled.
Mhm.
Have filed with them. That can be a long process, but one of the things that would work in our favor, if they're asking for an amount that's much higher than we think is reasonable, to show a pattern that we've already settled with our other unions at a lower rate that is comparable in the marketplace, comparable to the teachers who are in the lower end. That's a good column for us with a arbitrator, that we're simply not, we want to do the same possibly for that union, but not more. It's not reasonable to not do more. It's not affordable to do more. So the pattern helps you. So I wouldn't decide that either.
Could I just ask you from a logistical standpoint?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you support the COLA and then support less appropriation and leave it up to the department heads?
What do you mean?
New town manager. So if we go into the FY, when we prepare the next budget, I guess FY 27,
Yeah,
why wouldn't we be more strict with our allocation or appropriations in certain areas to take back from that?
Oh, yeah, we would, and I would support that, but what I see is more cuts if we appropriate less money.
Right.
If people are getting paid more, then you would have to cut more hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just about
Are you
more
gonna,
people or rewarding
yeah,
few people.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Like, again, we're not talking about teachers, but a smaller raise for the teachers, in theory, would result in retaining more teachers.
Sure.
And that's how I see it from the town side, or at least more hours. Maybe some full-time positions don't have to become part-time and so forth. It may not be that impactful. We're not talking about, a 5% COLA here. It's 2. And if this was a 1, then I would vote yes all day. So I'm splitting hairs here, but I'm just trying to do, what's best and really sharpen the pencil as we look at what we're, what is it ahead of us.
Anything else? Are we-
No, and again, if we could, if I could in good faith vote to support this and, give all of our department heads a raise that I believe that they deserve and that we could afford, absolutely. But I want to be consistent across the board. Yes, 2 here, but 0 over here. So, ideally it would be performance-based and everybody would come in and we would decide exactly, who gets 0 and who gets 10%, right? But the way that this works, yeah, the way that this works, we don't really have that freedom to do that. So in the spirit of being consistent, that's just where I see it.
I understand what you're saying, Johnny, and I want to save money. But when we do cuts, who would you rather have at the helm, a department head or their employees? You know what I mean? So if we keep at least the department heads, and we have to cut back a little bit, they're gonna still know how to run this town.
Mhm.
And that's the way I look at it. They're the ones that the brunt's gonna go on. So either take their money away from them, or they're gonna have a little extra work because maybe some of the employees have to have less hours. And then when we start learning how to get revenue in this town, we can bring everyone back up to the hours. But I look at department heads are very important.
Yeah, it's a great point. And if we were making this decision in a vacuum, I think that would be great. If it was presented, do we give the department heads this compensation package, assuming that we're going to lose other support personnel and we could save money there if that was packaged together in a conversation, then yeah, that makes sense. But right here, we're just making this decision, unilaterally, without having any consideration for what's going to happen downstream of
Well,
that.
we kind of know because when we first started, that there was 5 hours here, not filling different positions. So Mrs. Robinson kind of gave us an idea of what would be cut, what are, different hours, different positions won't be filled. So we do have kind of an idea
Yeah,
when we first started with the school budget.
Mhm.
But I understand what you're saying.
Anything else?
No. No.
Well, we gotta take a vote, so somebody wanna make a
I
motion?
make a motion to recommend.
I'll second. So we'll go down the line.
No, yeah, I vote yes.
I'll vote yes to recommend.
respectfully, no. It's fine.
2-1. It's the contract ratification.
And then the transfer goes with it because the contract is with
These are the
COLA,
dollars.
And
Yeah.
so this is the dollars that move from the one-time stabilization fund and water and sewer as it pertains to those employees to the accounts it needs to go to.
So for organizational purposes, let's just take a motion and a vote just to have it, right?
Well, it's a
Right, what?
different order too.
Yeah, it's ordered 25069.
Wanna make that?
Wait, William?
Make the motion again? Same motion.
I motion to recommend?
Yep.
Oh,
Vote yes?
yes, I vote yes.
I'll vote yes.
And I'll also vote no, yeah.
So this is 069.
Correct.
All right.
Did you guys do a second?
I'll second.
All second.
Okay, moving on to order O FY 25070, non-union affiliated positions.
So the same theory applies to this, and this is all the positions that are not either under a personal contract, a union contract. And as you'll see, there's actually some department heads on this list of positions. Library director, human resources director, treasurer collector, so on. So,
It's 18 employees.
18 employees. Who again would have received their step increase if they were in,
Well, COLA.
but not a COLA in FY 25. So this funds FY 25, and again, 26 is covered in the budget.
At the same 2%.
Correct.
Anything else further on this one? Assume it's- Very
This is
similar.
it's a 2% COLA on top of a step increase, so it's the same thing.
Yeah, this step they already got.
Yeah.
This is just the COLA.
Okay.
Same thing.
And this is not in a union contract,
Correct.
so we're not doing any collective bargaining, we're just trying to be in alignment.
Correct. And it's been the town's practice that the non-union employees wait for the USW contract to settle
Makes sense.
before.
Why
But some
aren't
of
they
these
in the
positions like,
union? Why aren't they in the union?
Well, for instance, the human resources director is a confidential position. It couldn't
Okay.
be in a union.
Okay,
Your council clerk.
Your council clerk, again, confidential position. So there's reasons why these
that's what I
are.
was wondering.
We've got the
Okay.
payroll and the assistant town accountant and the business unit analyst, they're all non-union.
Okay,
Why,
They're all-
I'm sorry. Why is the town clerk on here if that's a separate vendor?
So we put that on there because they're a non-union person and whether you fund it or not, I mean, you can take that off. But
We moved it assuming that you would, but if it doesn't go through, then we wouldn't do it.
Or
Do
it
we-
would move there, but it wouldn't be paid out.
does the town council give the town clerk her evaluation and her raise?
Yes.
No,
Not an evaluation, but
Selected.
we decide the salary.
We don't do an evaluation even though
she's elected.
She's elected.
She works for
Oh,
28.
no, the town, council clerk, I mean.
Oh, I can't speak to that. I don't know what your process has been to evaluate that position.
And do we give her a raise?
It's on here.
It's on
I
here.
know, but do we discuss it with
Oh.
evaluation and give her a raise?
So maybe the town manager would, right? Or no?
Well, it doesn't work. Yes, she's technically the town manager's employee, but she does work directly for the council. So I would assume that the council would do that. And I can't speak to whether you have or you haven't.
So you haven't given her evaluation?
I haven't, but that's not.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because when I didn't realize she was on there, and a resident asked me, she's like, well, why would because remember I said, did these guys get evaluation before? And I didn't think about it, and the resident asked me, who watched it last week, well, isn't the clerk, the
I
council,
mean,
you guys?
if,
And
I'm spitballing a little bit here, but I'd say it might be a joint effort between the manager and the council, just
Okay.
because the day-to-day, I mean, we're in the
Yeah.
office together. So council isn't here every day. There could be some, some coordination of that. But I can't speak to what's happened before. It hasn't happened in the 10 months I've been
okay,
in the office.
I couldn't answer the question, so that's why. I
That's fine,
asked.
it's a reasonable question.
There's not much into in the charter about it, very little. So I don't know.
And that salary is on a step. It looks like this year it's step 5. So if it was the will of the council, if it was, again, appropriate for us to review and allocate a raise, would that move up multiple steps in 1 year or how?
No.
Okay.
Nobody moves up multiple steps a
Yeah.
year.
So
that's
how
always
could
one
we-
step.
How can we give a raise based on performance review then?
I can't, like I said, I don't have the
Oh,
background
okay.
for you about.
We
I
just
think-
budget the steps that would be in the salary.
Okay.
Tables, so I would think that, you can do that step.
Okay, yeah, we just have to look into it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for FY 26, I think it's a conversation with the new manager about what process you want to have to do an evaluation. And I think the team here just needs to know whether they're supposed to process a step increase or they're not, or till after a certain point or whatever.
So if employees get a 2.5% across the board, and then they get a step, what does the evaluation do?
Well,
I
the
mean-
evaluation is for them to move into steps, so,
They have to
Typically.
have a certain,
yeah,
Okay.
they need an acceptable performance, If
All
they're
right.
not- Someone that's not an employee, obviously, wouldn't get recommended.
so
to
you can
move a
hold
step.
back a step.
Sure,
Yeah,
and it's in their
okay.
contract. Typically, department heads do all their employees, I've got like 12, so I've gone through that process of evaluating everyone. Usually you would send it up to HR, or it used to be the assistant town accountant, now we have the HR department. So, they would be somehow tracking if
Oh, okay.
somebody's not getting evaluated, or ask the department head, can you send that up? as we go through the fiscal changes, so.
So we have a lot of good employees because most of them moved up staff, right?
Well, they haven't moved up yet, until I went to.
But I mean recommended, so that's a good sign.
So just back to the town clerk, would it make sense to remove her from this and take it up separately in,
The council clerk?
right? No,
No,
the
the
actual
town clerk.
town clerk.
Oh, So,
What do you think?
what?
What do you think?
What's the question? Sorry.
Town clerk, taking the salary increase out of here.
I mean, the
Oh,
salary
yes,
increase
yeah.
doesn't align with what's in here right now anyway,
Okay.
right?
Well, I
So,
think we just based it on the 2% COLA of whatever was in that at the time. So there are some situations, obviously, that you reconcile later because if somebody, so say somebody leaves and comes on board, they're not gonna be in that same exact budget plus adjustment. So yeah, we would reconcile that to any changes that were made.
Is this the actual town clerk or is this somebody just
Or
under
is that
that line
Jolie?
item?
That's the actual town clerk. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That 2,085 is for 2% of whatever the number that was in front of us when we did the COLA.
Where's
But we also
Jolie's?
have another thing.
Julie's in USW.
Oh, Julie's in USW,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
So she's on 073 here, so we have a separate thing. So if we agree on this one, does that make this one automatic?
I'm unclear.
We
We've
have,
got the separate appropriation
Yeah, we
for
have
the
two.
town clerk. It's almost like we're double counting, if you will.
Yeah, well, this is just fun. This is the
you're
fun.
just saying it disappropriates to it, right? But we're not actually
Disappropriates.
giving the money.
But if you say, this is
Yeah.
what this goes in that line, but it doesn't necessarily.
If the council didn't vote the increase or change, then this wouldn't be spent.
So what if we
This
give
wouldn't be
more?
retro.
What if we give more here?
Well, then, we wouldn't have, no.
We'd have to make it, there'd have to be another transfer order some point in the year to make it whole.
No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if it's here then, for now, right?
No,
Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend.
A second. You're a yes vote?
Yes, I'm a yes vote. Sorry. I'm trying to.
I'm
that's the way
a
it
no,
goes.
just being consistent.
Confusing.
2-1. Okay, moving on to order OFY 25072, acceptance of donation.
pretty straightforward, it's a
About that.
donation for a fellowship.
Easy one.
Like anytime we're getting money is little to discuss.
Yeah, it's hard. I can read it to you if you like.
No, it's fine. Let's take a motion to recommend.
So
Motion
moved.
to recommend. Oh,
Florida
second.
T. Little Fellowship.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Moving on to what we just discussed, order OFY 25073, town clerk salary.
So you had brought up last time the jump. Right, from 87 to this. Is that a stipend?
I guess I have, if you don't mind,
No,
I
you go
have
ahead.
questions because we have 89,000 allocated in 2025. The hours were 1827, which pays at a rate of $49 an hour. And then now we're up to in FY26 budget, which is different from this number, 90,545, which is paid at a rate of 43.36. This is at 44.66 with a total salary of 93,000. So I'm just wondering, what is the town clerk currently getting paid as an hourly rate? Like, what are the actuals?
Yeah.
While she's looking, I think part of this is that it was budgeted, as you correctly stated, at 1827, 35 hours a week. And we are understanding from her that she works 40.
Yeah.
Which is different than maybe the past. So I think that's part of it, as well as even though it's elected, it has been on a step system, rightly or, that's how it's been done. So if you say more hours, a step, and a COLA, I think, I'm guessing that's how you arrive at this number that's in this order.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why is she working more hours than the last time?
I guess a comment before we answer his question.
I can't answer that.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
no comment.
The position doesn't get paid hourly, right? So just to be clear, they get paid salary.
It's
Yes.
just-
And so the hourly is just,
Budget.
So it doesn't make a difference. So
But I mean, an elected position could work as little or as much as they choose to do.
Right, so I
I mean, you yourselves included, you don't actually get paid, but you choose to work as much or as little as you do. It's up to the voters whether they return you to your role or not.
Does she get an annual register stipend?
Yeah.
Currently be added to her base pay on the number of registered voters?
She gets that once a year after the, I guess the annual election, the number of voters are registered voters, I think it's based on registered voters.
Yeah,
It's a Mass
registered.
General law that,
Who voted in the last election? So that's not including with her raise.
no, so
No.
that comes as like a stipend of once a year.
Okay. So what's the difference in the money in the raise?
It's about $900 this year and last year. That's stipend.
But that's set by mass law, so it's not.
No, I understand that, but her salary. She's at 89, and we want to bring it up to what, 93?
Well, I'm wondering what the actual is for this year. We budgeted for 89, but I'm wondering what we're actually paying.
Council did, I mean, in 24 is 87,127, right?
It's
So that's what it
87,127, that's what it is.
That's the current.
Current $41.81.
And then you're looking at FY 26, so that's is that the 2058 that we just voted on top of that?
That's what you approved last year.
Yeah, I got it.
So this one last year, so we budgeted with the previous town clerk was making at 30.
Yeah, but the
So,
hours doesn't make a difference, right?
no, so this was based on the budget we did last April
Okay,
or March, before the town clerk, the new town clerk was elected.
But are you,
So when the new town clerk came along, there was an order voting her. The previous town clerk was on a grade and a step that was higher.
right.
When the new town clerk came on, they were put on step one of the same grade, which is the same rate of pay, 41,8881, which is what the current town clerk is making now, which is 87,127.04.
plus the 2085, this is where the 89 is budgeted?
Yes.
So, and in the budget, it might not be annually, but there's an extra day because of the day of the week in the split of the fiscal year. So like you'll see 2088. 2080 is really annual salary, but we have to budget for an extra day if.
That's how the calendar falls.
The
Yeah.
calendar year falls on a weekday. So,
Okay.
So what did she get? Her salary was last year,
87,000?
87, and now we want to bring it up to 93?
Well, that's just what
That's
was
proposed.
presented to us.
So that was the step two with. So is this one the new grade?
It's the new rate, it's the 2% for, it's the 2% retro for FY 25.
Okay.
Then a step increase, a step going up to a step 2 and 2% in FY 26.
And the additional.
So it's in the, well, the
Well,
additional
additional
hours
hours
are
is
actually in the 87, right?
Yeah.
The additional hours are actually in the 87,000 that was there last year. So it's following the same as the non-union and the USW that you just voted on. It's 2% for 25, a step increase, and a 2% for 26.
Which is actually 7% raise.
Year over year. Because that includes back pay for 25, is that right?
Yes.
So if we remove that, then what's the percentage? It's 4.5?
4.5.
How can it be back pay if she just got elected?
We got elected in April of that last year, so
So
the
the
fiscal year started in July.
What's that?
So why would she get money for that if she wasn't in the position? Why would that?
But she's been in the position this whole fiscal year.
But that.
Right, she
but
got
that-
paid this salary.
Yeah, and that's your call. Absolutely.
Because it's elected, you solely get to decide what it's going to be, whether you agree with the hours worked or you don't agree, that's for you to determine.
Typically, and should this have been put in with a non-union? Probably not. I think moving forward, we're gonna have an appropriation order with the clerk salary. I think that just is so clean, much cleaner that they're on their own thing. Because you're right, when she just started, why would we have, if it was a higher grid, you wouldn't have given her that, I don't know. But I understand your methodology, but I agree it probably shouldn't be in with all the others for the salary grid, because you set the salary with this, not with the grid. We give you this grid. So for us to say, that goes retro, it's not agreeing to what you voted.
Right.
For that year. So I understand that, what you're saying. So I think. I
Are we
don't
gonna
know what I think anymore.
Do you want to remove it from this as an amendment?
Well, I don't think you need to, we just will know that we're not going to utilize, that those funds get moved over there. Whatever you decide is what's gonna govern what that person gets paid this next year. And if it's more than we actually needed to fund what you approved, it doesn't get spent.
I think it's a big jump, and plus she gets registered stipend, I mean, I don't, and it doesn't, I mean, no matter if she works 30 hours a week or 40, we don't go by hours.
Yeah, I think that we need to be consistent, but it is also within our purview, right? Do we, are we comfortable with this type of increase? I know that the finance committee asked us to kick this back to them. So if that is our will, then we can do that. They asked for other salaries in the region for topic of discussion. They are all higher than our town clerk. That doesn't mean that we should give a 7% effective increase in pay, but just for perspective, all of the other ones that I've researched in our region are higher. Now, obviously, some of them are elected, some of them are appointed, and how it works town to town is different. But they asked, and I looked into it.
But just to be clear on the ones that you presented, each of those towns have a much higher town budget than Bridgewater does too. So that's,
Well, they're not a regional
Compare,
school
right?
district. So they're getting chapter 70 in their operating budget.
right. But I mean,
So if you add like 30 million to us,
they still, I mean, Middleborough is 113, North Attleboro is 113, Stoughton, 130 million.
yeah.
I mean, they still blow us out of the water budget wise.
Mhm.
In their population,
Population should be similar.
Stoughton probably will blow us out of the water.
Stoughton's like 30 something.
Stoughton.
I also looked up the years that the town clerks have been in the office and, Easton's 15 years, 3 years, 4 years, 4 years.
Okay, so that makes
Ours
sense.
is on 2.
Yeah, so it seems to make sense then, the numbers. Yeah, like I said, if we're being consistent, if we're doing 2.5 and, 2.5 step and then 2%, for our other employees, that seems to be at least a basis for conversation, but that doesn't, again, this is a singular position and totally within the purview of the council.
Well, I mean, it's only been 1 year, and the other ones were department heads who have been here for quite a while.
Well, then all of the non-union just got the same deal.
Yeah.
Well, not got the same deal, but
Well, a lot of them were
being
department
considered at
heads.
least.
I don't know if they're the first years. I don't
So
know.
you wouldn't support it anyways.
I'm not a fan of the retroactive pay. It doesn't make sense to me, for a retroactive raise on the first year. So again, in my opinion, I think that 2%, shouldn't be there unless I'm not understanding properly. But, the year over year raise makes sense, but I don't understand a 2% retroactive COLA based upon somebody's first year in a position.
So that, if
Unless,
the COLA was already, if the contract was already in place for everyone, so it sets the salary scales inside the payroll system.
Mhm.
So you would have had the option of grade 1 or whatever, it would have been a different rate. So it would have been the 2% more. So that's probably where, based on our HR and our formulas, we probably would have given you that rate of pay at the time, because that's what our tables were.
and not just start her at a higher
So-
salary.
Yeah, so basically the comparably agreed 13, step 1. That would have been 2% higher.
Okay.
Like that's, so, and when we look at that 2% is to keep us competitive with other communities. To keep us like that starting in that grade for first year would have really been 2% higher had we had it in place then.
So we're just sending this back to finance, right?
Well, I mean,
If it's.
put something to it.
Yeah.
Let us know what you find out.
They already talked about it
But they wanted it back.
after, if we
Oh,
change it,
after us.
or,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
based on ours.
Just speaking to, because this is really under the purview of the council and how we view performance, right? And I think that Tina's done a great job as our town clerk. She's ran 2 great elections. We just had to do a special election that was put together with little time, and I think that it was run well. She saved us, I think, over $50,000 and getting us voting machines. Those came from the state.
Yeah.
So we saved $50,000 there. Again, not advocating for a high increase, but I think a reasonable increase. And I think that we should recognize those efforts.
So you didn't support it here, but you support hers?
No, well, they're separate, right? So I don't think that it should be 7, but I don't think that it should be 2.
Well, they're separate, but you said you were staying consistent, voting no across the board.
Yeah, so this is a large sweeping pen, right? And if we have the ability to evaluate each of these individuals, then those numbers would be different, right? It wouldn't be 2.5 step with a 1 COLA with the large sweep of the pen. With this individual, we have an opportunity to compensate them appropriately. So I think that we should take the opportunity to do that, or we could just stay consistent for the sake of consistency. It just depends on how we want to do it.
I'm open.
I don't know, I'm torn. I understand the consistency. It's
I
the
mean-
first year. She didn't do the job.
Maybe the raise then is the money that's already been appropriated in the budget for 2085. I mean,
That's for the
I would-
last year.
Well, the FY 29 was 89 plus, right? So we already budgeted for it.
We budgeted for it in FY 25. Yeah, so it's already in the budget for this year. So yeah, these dollars are already in this current year's budget.
I mean, we could recommend that we discuss it further at the town council. They're gonna have to discuss it anyways, so we could have everyone, see what they feel.
So you want to take no action, Tim?
Yeah, I let everyone decide, you know what I mean?
Well, everyone's going to
Right,
decide.
so we'll tell them what we looked into, what we found, and, we should do a joint discussion on what do they think? Tell you what the towns are, why we chose 2.5% for these guys, and then see what they say.
I think we should give them something, but
All right,
Yeah,
and
we
that
should give them
conversation is
something.
going to happen anyways.
yeah,
With all the town
Where do you guys want to start the conversation with the council? Because we wouldn't have done our job if we didn't suggest something, in my opinion.
So on here, this 4669 is with the 2% in the new salary grid. On your order. Right, that's step 2. The fiscal 26.
so it's like a 6,000 raise. Oh, yeah.
$6,143.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big number.
I would support setting our salary at the 87,127 she makes now plus 2,085, which is what we already have accounted for in FY budget. Correct.
So that is for fiscal 20.
5. This is for 26.
So we would have to say we want 1% or 1.5%, right? That's the way we would have to do it, set it at 1.5% rather than 2.5%.
I don't know if I'm right here.
I see it as 2 separate things. We need to set a salary for FY 25 and 26, right? In
No, FY 25 has already been done, right? What is this?
25 is what we just voted on, right?
Yeah.
That would bump her salary. That would bump her base up to 89.
Yes.
So it's not a 7.5. It's not a 7% because her new salary in FY 25 actually came up to 89.
But we don't,
But you're saying.
this is where we
you
get
don't- yeah.
confused because we only allocated money in here. We didn't actually give it to her,
Yeah.
right? Where everybody else in here gets it because they fall under the town manager, but she's not getting this until we allocate it.
Yeah. So if we,
So that's
So
what
you
I think we're
voted
saying the same
Back
thing.
last, whatever
Yeah.
it was, you voted last year for fiscal 25, didn't include that 2,000.
mhm.
Like I said, I probably shouldn't have put that on unless I knew that you were going to also vote retroactive, but because we make the grids in the computer this way, it was just a systematic what we grabbed, so.
So effectively, what is going to be the salary in FY 25? Does it staying at 87 or does it bumped up to 89?
but FY 25 already happened.
Yes, so you're making it clear that you're not gonna give her that retro. I mean, just because the money's there doesn't mean it goes to her. I think we assumed because we were gonna build it up inside the salary grid.
Mhm.
So we would have had to have notified you, hey, by the way, you voted this for her and our salary grid's now this. We would have had to say, oh, what do you want to do? So I think that's probably what you need to decide before you for that. Because you did vote the 87. But now we're saying, oh, but if we put 2% in there, that goes back to July 1. It's gonna make it 87 plus 2085.
Would have been 89.
But in my opinion, town clerk should never get retroactive pay because we set it every year.
Mhm.
Yes, I
She
agree with
shouldn't
that.
qualify with that.
Yeah.
Which is why I think she should make 2% more next year,
Mhm.
26, and that's what we're setting at 89.
With a step or just a 2%?
Cause
To
she,
me,
Is
Yeah.
everybody else getting 2.5 step plus a 2% COLA, so they're getting 4.5%.
so you could set her COLA at 1.5% or 1, right? You could set
It's
it
up
at
to
1.
us, yeah.
Instead of getting the 2.5% COLA, because she's gonna get her step, so we can just leave the step unless you hold her back, but there's no reason to hold her back, because she's done a really good job. So
Yeah,
now we can just decide whether her COLA 2.5% or lower, and that will bring down her salary.
yeah, I mean, I understand all the background to it, but all we need to do is decide on a number. I feel like all the step and the hours are a good way to get there, but it's probably making it more confusing.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I get one piece of information that
You-
was in.
yeah, you
budget
gotta wait.
finance last- okay.
At least
I
until,
just.
Suspend.
Suspend.
do we want to make a motion?
Yeah, let's do it quick. I'll make motion to suspend.
I'll
We have
second.
got 5 minutes, so.
Okay, just not sure if you're aware that she doesn't take any health insurance.
Yeah.
That was one of the things we discussed last year at budget. That's a lot of money if she did.
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to do. Just-
Yes, I support using this as the base, 87. I wouldn't support a retroactive. I don't, as we discussed before, I don't support retroactive anywhere. So using that as the base, whatever increase above and beyond that, I would support. Or at least, entertaining the discussion. So I think that's a good starting point. Whatever percentage we think should go above and beyond the 87. Is there a number that you guys like?
Well, you don't like 2.5, so,
Well, it's 2 plus 2.5, it's 4.5.
yeah, so. it's-
Everybody's getting 4.5.
Right. So,
It's not 2.
Yeah, but I don't think we need to do that a year. We could just set it to,
Yeah,
oh, so did it too.
I mean, she's in year 2. She
Yeah.
doesn't follow, technically doesn't follow any of the steps, if I'm correct.
yeah, it doesn't.
We're
It's just a
using that.
mechanism that
I
we
think-
use.
Yeah, I think in
It's a way
the
to
past,
justify it.
this kind of got lost. I think there was some issues in the past with this not being, sorry. And I think that was the attempt here was, I think a few years ago, they did the step and grade
That's it,
system to make sure that we were looking at it every year
Yeah.
and,
2.5.
and
Yeah.
rewarding the hard work in that position.
She's
305.
So what is it?
What's
We're gonna
it?
do it 2.5?
So it would
Or
be
just
89, 305, 18.
Okay.
Want to make a motion
Making a
on
motion
that?
to
We'll
recommend.
Yep, so moved.
A second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay,
Do you know how you said we can bring up stuff to discuss next?
hold on. Yes,
Okay.
let me just do public comment, and then I can get that from you, Mary, if you want to do that, just so we can move along to the car meeting. All right, D, public comment. Any comments from the public?
I just want to say, when I was elected town clerk, my predecessor had died in office. I've been making 69,000 when I was elected because the town council sets the town clerk's salary, period. They decided I should make 40,000 for my first year. One of the town councilors went to strong bat for me, and got at least 45,000. And so I'll do my very best. I worked hard for a year. I came back, I said, now I'd like to be put back to what the town was making. They never gave me more than a $4,000 or $5,000 raise every year. And last year, because of things that Lori had done and wasted, I got actually raised to 87,000 my last 9 months. So that's how it went for a town clerk. Nobody paid any attention to making it an equitable salary for the amount of work that was being done. So I would like to see Tina get an equitable salary during COVID. Everybody else wasn't allowed to come in here and work. I had to come in here and work every day, weekends, and every day. Keep up with it. There was never a mention or thanks or anything said. So give her thanks and give her money because it's a hard job and it requires all sorts of weird times and strange efforts. Thanks.
Noted.
Any other comments?
Question, if we don't, do the 2% raises and we go to that supplemental budget, how does that work? Could you explain that, please?
The town manager needs to bring forth a supplemental appropriation recommendation of how they would fund that or make deductions, fund that supplemental budget. And then the council has to be advertised in the paper and a public hearing, and the council could then take that up, discuss it, and vote on it or make motions to change it.
And a supplemental budget can include cuts if,
If the manager wants to
Necessary.
bring this forward.
okay, okay,
It's section 6.4 of the charter.
okay.
Mark, yes.
Yeah, I'm just seeking clarification on the letter that the finance chair sent to John as president of the council. I'm under the impression that the finance committee voted 5-0 not to recommend, not to take no action. Is that correct?
Yes. Then asked us to they voted not to take action on the current order and then asked us to send it back if we amended or changed it. It's my understanding watching it.
Okay. I just wanted.
Yeah. Okay. E adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah,